I think we finally did it. We finally found out the absolute best creme de la creme, most optimized builds for every single talents for every single primary commander. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down the talents for pretty much all the most viable primaries and their most optimal builds. What is up, guys? Meower here, back with a brand new Call of Dragons video. So, I love talking about the meta, the new stuff, the good stuff, the most optimal ways to get more merits, to beat up people. So, why not finally reach the point that we have finally found the best options for every single commander? So, before we get started, be sure to drop the like, don't forget to subscribe, and let's go. So starting off for Syndrion, we're gonna be going over the Rage Engine build, which has become pretty much the most optimal build. Even though the Precision Tree had a buff and Intrepid, it's still the best optimal build. So we're gonna go over it and explain why it's so good, because this is pretty much the best build for archers that rely on rage skills. So we're gonna go over Arrow of Precision. We're going to be taking the marksman tree first. We're going to get the extra rage from here. We're going to get the extra skill damage for Syndrome and Freygar's awakened skills. We're not going to be taking Shower of Blows. We're going to be taking something else. So we already started messing up the build. Here, we're going to go for this. We're going to go for marksman attack. We're going to go for head held high, intimidation, bullseye, marksman HP, and then the extra rage generation. And then we're going to go into the precision tree. We're going to take the extra march speed because we need march speed on Syndrome. We can either go for strengthened weaponry or the counterattack. Personally, I'll just go for strengthened weaponry. We're going to go for whirlwind. We're going to go for cool under pressure. And finally, we're going to put the last 2 points into intrepid. And this will be the final tree for this build. So the reason why we go for this is because it pretty much guarantees us an extremely high uptime of Syndrome's rage skill, which in turn increases his DPS and also keeps Freygar's buff near permanently up, making sure that we're proccing our skills as quick as possible. Next up, we got ourselves Liliya. So Liliya, after discussing with so many mage mains, I believe this has pretty much become the absolute best, with the only difference that we go for the extra 8% pretty much instead of the Spirit of Rage. The reason for that is because that extra 8% impacts every single thing Velyn does. Of course, the only time you go for the rage if you are going to be pairing it with Thea. If you're not going to be pairing it with Thea, then the build will just go as normal. You're going to go for the full on skill tree. You're going to go for detached first, go for focus, go for Raging Tide, and then go for Caged Animal, and then we're gonna go for the Magic Tree. We can put 2 points here, and then 3 points here, and then of course we're gonna go for Intimidation, and finally we're gonna go for Magic Maelstrom, and the last point will go here. Of course, if we are going with Thea, the last point, instead of going here, it will go for Orb of Protection so that we get even more shields, especially if we end up pairing it with Visage of the Sanctus. Next up, we got our boy Goresh. So Goresh's build has pretty much been the same since he came out. Nothing really out of the ordinary. It's pretty much, I believe, the best build for him for both rallying and open field. It serves all the purposes that we want him to do. And since for the open field, especially, you generate rage so much that there is no point picking up Iron Will. You just want to keep ready for battle so that you keep proccing your counterattacks more and more, playing more onto a skill set that just relies on getting swarmed and getting beat up, and you somehow end up with at least 20,000 merits. Next up, the newest introduction to COD, and honestly, one of the most broken commanders ever, really, is Maggrat. So, Maggrat, you have two routes, but me personally, I prefer this route. So, we're gonna go for the attack, we're gonna go for the march speed, we're gonna go for the HP, and then we're gonna go for the marksman attack. You can either go for the extra normal attack or the march speed. I think the march speed is more valuable long term. You never go for steady shot, and you don't really have any skill damage, so you're gonna go for alert, and then finally we're gonna pick up bullseye, and then we go all in on the precision tree. We go for here. We don't pick up the march speed from precision tree because the march speed from the marksman tree is higher by 5%. So you might as well sacrifice that 1% normal attack and gain the extra 5% march speed. And then we're gonna go for strengthened weaponry. Again, we don't really have any skill damage, so there's no point. And then we pick up invincible because we wanna keep as much buffs on our normal attack as much as possible, and we don't really need the extra 150 damage factor on our whirlwind because we already have a big nuke on our fifth auto attack. And then next up we go for cool under pressure. We go for intrepid. We want to get those crits in. We want to crit. We want to do more crit damage because if Maggrat does end up critting, her fifth skill hits like an absolute nuke. And then finally, we put our last point into detached in order to get her second skill more, give the second skill more chances to proc the extra bonus attack. Next up, Freygar. She's not a primary commander, so there's no point giving her a tree. And even if she has a tree, it'll never be optimal, so there's no point. Velyn can be a primary in some certain situations. If that's the case, then you can always just go for the control tree into the PvP tree. There is really no other option. Next up, Skogul. There is the mobility tree Skogul, but I think that's pretty useless. She doesn't really serve anything with that tree. She's extremely squishy and she dies in seconds, so I don't feel like comfortable showcasing the build for it because it's just a troll build. It's not viable. Zaira, the same can be said. She doesn't have a precision tree, so she not should never be primary. Mobility tree on archers especially is pretty useless. Next up, Bertie Boy. Bertie Boy's got a lot of options, but I think with if especially if you're gonna be pairing him with Tohar, you should be going for this tree. You should go for the foundation as usual. You're gonna go for the overall speed, and then you're gonna go for the overall, and then you're gonna go for the skills. You're gonna go for the extra hero damage. You're gonna get the extra rage generation for Bertie to rage cycle for him much faster because you don't want counter attack and you don't want less normal attack damage. Take it because you should not be getting hit anyways when you're playing as Bert. And then you go for detached. You go for focus. You go put 1 point in Raging Tides, and then you go all in on Steady Hands, because Steady Hands is perfect with Tohar, because Tohar can keep 100% uptime on this buff. And then, of course, you go for Caged Animal, and then you have two options whether you go for Magic Tree or PvP Tree. Me personally, I like going for the PvP Tree because it gives more bonuses in general, of course, with the exception of the 5% difference in march speed, and the extra damage increase overall is pretty nice to have versus a 30-second cooldown on 10% uh, defense ignoring. Next up, Tohar should not be a primary, never ever. Nico, next up, he's gonna have pretty much almost the same exact build as Syndrion with some variations. We're gonna go for the Rage Engine route on Nico, and what we're gonna go for is gonna be the attack, speed, HP, and then arrow of precision, and then we're gonna go all in on the marksman tree, and then we're gonna go into the precision tree. So we're gonna go for marksman attack, rage generation, hero skill damage. We're gonna go for bullseye. We're gonna go for HP, rage cycling, extra counter attack, and then we're gonna go for pursuit. And the reason why we go for pursuit is that it enables our marches to do to deal even more damage, an increase of normal attack damage taken by 10% for 5 seconds. This is pretty much guaranteed, and since it's every 10 seconds, it's pretty much guaranteed to have a full on uptime or a full on downtime of only 5 seconds, 5 to 6 seconds at maximum with our rage cycling. And then we're going to go for overall attack. We're going to get the extra march speed, the extra counter attack in case we get hit, which should synergize extremely well with the other ones. So we're already looking at incredibly high counterattack amount from both Nico Kinnara, especially when you pair those two together. And then we go for Whirlwind, of course, because we already have a built in onslaught, so there's no point wasting that. And then finally, the last point will go into Cool Under Pressure. Next up, we got ourselves Kinnara. Kinnara is an interesting one. Sometimes you can use her primary, sometimes you can use her secondary. Me personally, with the current way things are, I just prefer to have her secondary to the OP Nico build that we go for right now. Of course, big shout out to Zerga for showcasing the build for me. You'll notice here that I pick up 1 point in the ambush. The only reason I go for it is because it helps me proc the Rattle Spear passive more and more. And for the PvP tree, the reason why I go for the PvP tree is because it's just superior to the Marksman tree, especially on Kinnara, which loves more skill damage, loves more attack, and of course, loves more damage overall. Next up in this, not a primary, Hosk can be a primary with the full on counterattack build for Huskanara, though right now that build is sort of dead because, well, you have long range warfare right now, so you shouldn't really be relying on getting counterattacks. Instead, Hosk has fallen into the deputy category in later on stages. Of course, Hosk and are still viable in the early game, but you still need them both maxed out, or at least Hosk fully maxed out to get the most value out of that march. Next up, Nika. She should never be primary. Next up, Madeline. She has pretty much roughly the same build as Goresh, but the difference is you want her uptime to be fully permanent no matter what. Even if you're overcycling, you would rather have it up versus not having up for at least 1 second. And the reason for that is because, well, everything in this tree gives her the tools she needs to survive and dish out more damage and just be a plain old menace out on the field. Of course, she'll not deal as much damage as Goresh, but she is a stone wall that can help you control the flow of battle and can help you block out choke points. So the way the build goes, we go for attack, march speed, the HP, shield of stability, defense, egoism, Heaven's Blessing, because we're going to be pairing her with Garwood always. And then we're going to go for Cool Headed. We're going to go for All Conquering, Generalist, Encouraging Dance, Iron Will. And then we go into Solid Shield, Flank Protection, Last Word. And the last 2 points will go into Infantry Speed. Thea should never be primary. Emrys can be primary for raiding people or just being a menace. You can go for the PvP cavalry build. You can go for the Sonic build for just farm killing, but do note this march will melt as soon as anyone even looks at it funny. It will just die in seconds. Next up, Bakshi. Bakshi's build has been pretty much the same ever since, people really figured out how to use him the best. He still goes for the full nuclear bomba build that is full on skill damage and does as much damage as possible, so really no further comment on it. As for Garwood should not be a primary, so no point giving him a tree. Even in garrisons, Madeline is a better primary than he is. Forondil can be a menace with the control tree, especially if you're running him on a flyer. I think control tree is the absolute best tree for cavalry, especially with the playstyle that perfectly fits Forondil, which is just being a raiding menace out on the field and making people rage quit pretty much, or just rage how slippery this little flyboy is. Next up, Theodore has a couple of options. You can either go for the Bakshi route or you can go for the full on garrison build that I did not really finish because I don't know how to garrison with. I don't know, to be honest, the most perfect build, so I'll just play it safe and give him the same skills. You can, instead of the cavalry tree on garrison, you can go for thrill skill and go for fair defense instead, and I'll showcase it right now. This could be the safer option for you in case you wanna garrison with the Theodore, the man with the big forehead. We're gonna go for mighty power. We're gonna go for overall health. We're gonna get the extra attack. We're gonna get the extra counter attack. And then we're gonna get fair defense. And then we're gonna go for skills. Attack. Head held high. Boiling blood. Detached. Focus. Raging tide. Finally cage animal. And the last option will be encouraging dance, just to get that extra rage in there so that we can get ourselves better skills. Cycling overall, every single bit of rage helps when it becomes to garrison and rally options. As for the rest of the epics, really just copy the same builds as the legendaries. I think epics should never be primary, even if you're still starting out, except for like the first day or two. And even then, you just use them temporary till you start moving them to better options. Even if you are free to play, there are always better options than the epic commanders. As well, we know that Chaksha is the secret OP commander in the game, probably the strongest. Look at the face, there's a demon inside him. So if you can figure out the build for Chaksha that enables him to become, the true demon that he is, send it to me on Discord and I have a special gift for you if you manage to figure out the right one. But anyway, on that note, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Join the Discord. The link is in the description. I would love to see you all there. But on that note, have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Meow meow. If you enjoyed this video, click here to watch the next video. Oh, meow meow meow. Meow 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 meow. Meow meow meow. Meow 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 meow.